What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Shutter Talk with Dax Brule. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about how I traveled the Balkans for $15 a day. Simple as that. I have recovered from my trip, I will tell you that. So I went on a trip, a 3-month trip, and I was gone, right? And while I was gone, things were different. And once I got back, it was kind of hard getting back into things, but But I can say I'm completely back. I'm 100% an Ottawain, an Ottoan. I'm back in my city, living my life. And yeah, I'm comfortable here, living it, and just putting out content for you guys. I hope you guys like what I've been doing lately, putting out a lot of different videos and photos and things like that, just to keep you guys entertained and also just keep myself entertained while I'm living my life. But let's move on with this. With what you're watching this for is how I traveled the Balkans on $15 a day. So first, I'm just going to break down the expenses that happen when you're traveling. Number one, biggest, is usually, I would say, location. What's it called? Hotels, things like that. Whatever the word is for that. Where you're going to stay. So you got options, right? You got hotels. Those are for the big budget travelers, people who want to not really, they just want to go out and feel comfortable when they're not out doing things. They got that the hotel room service, all that stuff. But it does come at the biggest budget. You got the hostels for people who, want to experience the travel, the stereotypical travel lifestyle, and want to pretty much enjoy having people around. And that's what a hostel is all about. It's a cheaper price. You have people around. You can either take that as a positive or a negative. Some people like their privacy, so they'll go for a hotel. But I took it as a positive. I loved when we stayed in hostels because not only are we getting a bed and, pretty nice, bathroom and everything, we're also getting, it's a free place to meet people. It doesn't take any effort. There's people in your room that you can talk to later, make plans, and go out. And that's something huge that I would do with my time and my cousins. We would always find people from the hostel. That's the first thing when we got to a new place. Meet them before we go to find people on the streets. Not on the streets, but, local people who actually live there who could show us around. So that's the first two. And the third one is camping. Easy as that. Camping is the most, free form of living. You find a place, you sleep on the floor there, right? You set up a little house, a miniature portable house. And yeah, that's the route we took. Camping is the cheapest method of them all. Now, you have to beware, especially in the Balkans. It is illegal. I'm going to let you know it is illegal. But, illegal. Yeah, whatever. They don't actually, search for you and stuff. And if you're careful, you can do it. So I will say we did a couple of illegal campings, but really, you really just have to find a place and some tips. I'll give you some tips for when you're setting up your tent and you don't want to spend any money on transport. One thing is you'll be doing a lot more out-of-city activities if you're doing this. In the city, camping is tough. If you want to go to a big city and explore, camping can be tough, especially really big cities. Like, let's say you're trying to go to Paris, like, good luck camping in Paris. Like, you have to usually pay for a hostel, and those are expensive. So if it's in a bigger city, and, the bigger cities where usually all the cool things happen, it's going to be tough. But if you are on the road, for example, we were hitchhiking a lot, and you just need a place to stay before the next day and you start hitchhiking, then camping is the go-to. You don't need to pay for a little local hotel or anything. You just set up your tent. And camping does have its perks. Camping is very relaxing. It helps you, learn to appreciate what you don't have. Like, for example, when I was camping, you don't have access, a comfortable bed, heating, all this stuff. You need to live with what you have access to. So that's what happened when we were camping. And I do think camping is a great way. But if you're in a city, it's going to be tough. So you're going to have to leverage camping on your trip and hostels on your trip. But if you're in the mountains and you're doing a 7-day hike, camping is the way to go. You know how cheap hiking vacations are? All you have to do is buy plane tickets there and back and food. And you don't have to pay for any location services. So a hiking trip is a very good trip to take because it's very not expensive at all. You don't have to pay for anything. Okay, so we're back. I'm sorry about that. I had to go quickly shoot a video, so it's actually an hour and a half later. But I'm back here, and pretty much we were talking about how camping is such a good thing to do. But we're gonna move on from the location. We're gonna move on from the actual place you stay to the second biggest expense, which I 100% do believe, is actually your transportation, which is a huge expense, right? You look at buses, especially in Canada, for example, a Greyhound bus is around $40 to get like somewhere from 30 minutes to an hour away. It's super expensive. In certain countries, for example, in Albania, in the Balkans, certain countries you can get around for very cheap. I will tell you that. Honestly, like I was finding places where I could, get around for $3 for a 2-hour ride. Like it's pretty insane how cheap the transport there is, because how it works in Albania and other countries is they have delivery people also do transport. So while they're transporting us, they would stop and deliver goods and different things like that. So they would be already getting paid, so they'd be able to bring those prices down, in turn getting more customers. And that was pretty much the raggedy old, backpackers transport is in Albania. Is you're going to go and you're going to take your your $3 transport, which is not a comfortable ride at all, and you're going to take it all the way 3 hours. So, for example, from Tirana to Shkodër in Albania. So that was pretty much how we would get around. And that's the first level, I think, of transport is the good old taxi. Now, taxis are expensive. Those are the highest class. If you're going to be doing hotels, you're a rich boy, you're traveling, you're going to go to hotels and you're going to take your taxis. Taxis are reliable. You get them when you want. You get them when you need. And they're expensive. So one tip I'll give you with taxis that I didn't actually take in was always negotiate the price before you actually take the taxi. It's very important to do that because they're going to screw you over. When we landed in Albania, actually, the first thing we did was look for a taxi, and the guy screwed us over because we didn't know what the currency value is, which is a huge tip I'll tell you if you're trying to save money. Know the value of the currency. Know a quick conversion method. So let's say we're in Canadian dollars, right? Know how many of that is 1 Canadian dollar. So you can quickly do that math, divide it by that number. For example, 800 lek. Let's say 8 lek is a dollar. 800 lek is 8 divided by 800, which is, I'm kidding, 100. 100 times 8 is 800, so it's $100. So you got to be able to do that math quickly. When they spit their price out, they say, it's this much for this, whatever. They say it in their accent. You can quickly do that math, be like that, and then be like, that's too much, that's a good price, or you can go for a bargain, which usually you'd want to go for a bargain, try to see if you can get them down, because it's in these countries, things like transport and other things, it's very flexible. It's very, it's never going to be exactly what they say. They're going to try to make some money off you, so always go for the bargain. That's one tip I'll give you as a backpacker. But that's a taxi. So a taxi is a good way. There's also Uber in other countries if you're willing to, like more, modern countries, Germany, France. You can download their version of the Uber app and you can take the Uber around. It's just like at home, you'll feel super comfortable for getting around in cities. Now, if you're trying to go bigger distances, the next go-to is a bus. Now, buses are pretty cheap. In Europe, Flixbus, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the go-to for most people traveling. Wi-Fi on board, air conditioning, easy online, buy the ticket online, you go and you scan it and you're in the bus. It's a very good method of transport, and it is expensive, but if you need to be somewhere and you have to go a far distance, it's worth spending the money. So for example, 20 euros could get you an 8-hour trip. It's pretty good deal, honestly. Like, you really have to do your research, but getting buses is a very good thing. There's also the train, which you could take, which I took once or twice. Trains, you have to be careful because depending on the place you're in, they're either super expensive because they're really good, or they're cheap because they're really slow and take forever. And we did take one train to Zagreb, and in Zagreb, in Croatia, the train was so slow. It took us nearly 10 hours to arrive to our location. It was a really slow train. And yeah, so unfortunately, it took us a long time to get there, but we made it. And that's the other method of transport I would tell you guys to take. Finally, if you're trying to go cheap, and that's what we did, good old hitchhiking. If you've ever done it, it's not as bad as it seems. People are like, Oh, how'd you hitchhike? Do you have any sketchy moments? I had one sketchy moment which ended up turning into a good moment. Now, this sketchy moment was actually the guy didn't speak a lick of English. He's driving, and we're like, okay, we're done. We can get out here because he took us far enough. And yeah, so we're like, get out. And he started turning off the road and everything. We're like, what the hell's going on? So we're nervous, right? He ended up taking us to a taxi spot and bought us a taxi to our location because he couldn't take us there. Isn't that insane? It's incredible what you can actually get from nice people, and that's what we did. The thing about hitchhiking is you meet so many amazing nice people on the road, and they're just so nice with how they act, and they want to help you. They want you to be there. And yes, there's some people who they're like, yeah, get out of my face, like I just don't want to be alone, but I don't want to talk to you. Like, we've had some people who are like, don't talk, just sit and be there. I'm like, okay. So it's a mixture, but you do meet crazy people. You do get crazy experiences. We got invited to some girl's house for 3 days, and she gave, it wasn't free food, but we'd help out with food, and it'd be split prices, and we'd pretty much get a free place to stay for 3 days. And we're just random people, and she invited us, and it was insane how nice she was. And that's the thing, if you want to go cheap, do that, but you also just get those experiences, because putting yourself in a vulnerability makes higher chances for amazing experiences. So from tenting to having insane tenting experiences, to going to hostels and meeting crazy people, to hitchhiking and meeting people on the road who are just super nice and have insane stories to share. I just do believe that it's an amazing experience to have, hitchhiking and just traveling the world like that. And I think that you should try it out. So that's how we went around. We started hitchhiking, and we did tenting and hosteling when we could. So that's how we were cheap. So let's break this down before we go into the last point of your major expenses, and that is tenting, free. Hitchhiking, free. The only thing that costs money is a hostel when you need to. Other than having to take, like a bus in the city, or like a metro, buy a metro ticket, you're not spending much on those two things. And what leaves us is the thing that generates us and gets us energy is food. Now, food is the only expense you could have on a day. We had some days where the only thing we would spend money on is the food we were eating, but we actually didn't spend any money that day because we didn't have to. Because we already had the food. So we would spend no money on transport. We'd hitchhike 300 kilometers. We'd set up our tent free, and then we would have food. So you would literally grab an apple and we'd eat it. Why am I saying it like that? Sorry. That's all the expense we'd have. So really, if you want to go super cheap, you're going to be taking some sacrifices. I'll tell you that. First of all, you'll mainly not be in the cities unless you want to spend a little extra money. You won't be in the cities as often, the main cities, but it's beautiful out in the nature. And I think that that's the beauty of most countries is in their nature. And you will be hitchhiking, so it's not reliable. Some days you will go 50 kilometers. Some day you go 300 kilometers. It's not as reliable. But that's just the beauty of traveling. But moving on to food, that's the only thing you'd spend money on. So if you're really cheap, especially in certain countries, you could get away with a $5 day. You could eat healthily, I'd say, $4 or $5 a day, because the thing is, you have to go for those cheap things. So let me break down what we would eat. Always start the day with oatmeal. Oatmeal is the cheapest thing. We were finding 1 kilogram packs of oatmeal for €1. €1 is 1.5 Canadian dollars, and that's a kilogram. That lasts us, 2 of us, me and Bennett, or 3 of us if I was with my girlfriend. That lasts us 3 days, 4 days. That's plenty of oatmeal. So that was what we would eat. And then our go-to for protein would be peanuts. We would buy, and just nuts in general. Peanuts was our go-to. And we would just buy kilograms of that. We'd buy 2 kilograms of peanuts or something like that, and we'd munch that in the morning, and it'd be amazing. It's actually, I'm addicted to peanuts now. And yeah, that would be our go-to in the morning, would be peanuts. So we'd have that, and peanuts they're the more expensive item of our food, I think, but you could get them pretty cheap, and we were getting them for pretty cheap. I would say we could get a kilogram for, €3, €4, and that would last us 3 days. We did go through peanuts pretty fast, though. But for lunch, we had some go-tos. We had a couple go-to meals, but I'll tell you the main things that we started with. Pasta. If you have a stove, pasta is the lightest and cheapest thing you could have, right? So I bought like a kilogram of pasta for literally 50 euro cents. That's nothing. The thing about pasta is you need to flavor it, because over 3 months, 2 months, you would be like, fuck, I hate pasta. So we would flavor it, and one of our go-to meals was actually powdered tomato sauce, and it was so good. We would put it in our pasta and add a little water, and it would just moisten up, and it tasted like regular tomato sauce, but it's light. And that's a key thing with backpacking, is you want to stay light but still have good nutritious food. One thing we were missing is a lot of more vegetables. We would not get vegetables that often, just because they can be expensive. But we would eat a lot of apples, so that was where we would get our sugars in. And I don't know too much. Like, I'm sure we were being pretty unhealthy, but we would eat a lot of apples with peanut butter. We would eat a lot of peanut butter, and I think peanut butter is bad for me. But I'm actually going to have some peanut butter after this because it's making my mouth water. But that was what we would eat. We would eat oatmeal for breakfast, pasta, and pasta for dinner. You could also eat rice. Our go-to backup plan was cooked rice. We'd buy pre-cooked packages. You can get them pretty much anywhere in the world. The rice is already cooked, so if our stove dies, doesn't have enough fuel to cook the pasta, because you can't eat pasta raw, we would just eat this rice just cold. And we were pretty savage caveman people, so don't think that you're going to be dining super nice. And one thing though is, if you do want to dine super nice, there is cheap ass food. We were finding burgers, like fresh burgers off the grill, for €1. Like these giant burgers, like literally as big as my head, for €1. And like, you can find super cheap food. You just have to ask the locals or search up guides and things like that, and you can get cheap food. But if you're trying to go butt cheap, like $10 a day, then you can do it with these foods. Near the end, we were starting to get stuck up with, pasta and rice, and we're like, fuck this tastes like shit, you know what I mean? So we had to switch it up, right? And we started making a couple, go-to meals. Number one was a bean salad. Bean cans are cheap as balls. I don't know why I say cheap as balls, but they're cheap. We'd get 3 cans of beans, and we'd get 1 little packet of dressing. We probably should have got a bottle, because we kept making this, and we kept just buying these little packets, which is bad for the environment. But it's you put the beans in a bowl or a pot. We had our pot. You'd put the dressing. You'd take your spoon, and you'd eat it. And it was good. It was a bean salad. It tasted like something you would eat at a nice dinner with the fam. Now, we would always top our meals with bread. Now, bread is cheap in Europe. I'll tell you, in Europe, I don't know other places, super cheap. €1 for a giant 500-gram loaf. Like, it's super cheap, and it's so tasty, too. The bread there is just so much better than here, because it's all baked fresh, like, right at the location. So that was one of our go-tos. It'd be bread. We'd fill the bread. We'd take out the inside, eat that, and then we'd shove all the beans in, and it'd be a bread bean sandwich. And that was amazing. That was an amazing meal we had. And other than that, like, I can't really think off the top of my head anything else we ate. It would be those bean salads that we would eat, which were tasty as fuck, to those things. And sometimes we'd throw in a mixture, a little dessert, Sometimes we'd throw in, if there's a cheap local fast food place that you can get you a nice meal, then we would go there. But other than that, like, it was just, we would just enjoy what we were eating, and the breakfast was pretty bad, but you just want to have that base. If you have no other options, have the cheap stuff to eat. Have that food in your bag, have those oatmeals, have those nuts, have that pasta, have your stove on hand. So if there's no place that you can go to experience the good cultural foods, have that food so you can eat. So let me just recap before I finish this off. If you want to travel cheap, there's 3 things you're going to be spending money on. There's going to be your place you stay, the transport, and the food. Yes, there's those other little expenses, like, if you want to go do scuba diving or something like that. But that's I find that's a complete different expense than a daily expense, because that's like on event. Like, it's not every day you're scuba diving. It's a one time in the trip you're going to go scuba diving. It's a one time in the trip you're going to go visit these caves and have to pay the entrance fee. So that doesn't count. That's extra money that you should have saved, like, $500, $300 extra on the side if you want to do local activities, get into a museum or some shit. But if you just want to experience culture, all you have to spend money on is food, transport, and location to stay. And if you want free location, bring a tent. If you want to spend very little, go at a hostel and find the cheapest hostel. Just go for the cheapest hostel. The thing is, people say, oh, let's go to this cool hostel because, this is where you can find and meet cool people. Just go to the other hostel and then go to the hostel with the cool people. Pretend like you go there, go to their lounge because it's free to get in. And then go to their lounge and then hang out with all those people and meet those people. Be like, yeah, no, I'm not staying at this hostel. And just go hang out at the hostel that you like the people, but don't actually stay at that because it's more expensive. So that's what we did. We would stay at these hostels if we were in a city. We'd go to the hostel and find the cheapest one. Transport, if you're going long distances and you need to be somewhere and it needs to be reliable, take a bus. Take a Flixbus. Super nice. It's literally like a 5-star bus. It's super nice and super cheap. Or just go to the local bus station and say, when's the next bus leaving for this? How much is it? Get a ticket, wait, take the bus, and go. We did that a couple times. No plan. We would just go and take the bus. Or, hitchhike. And when hitchhiking, one tip I'll give you is be aware of how hard it is to get into the city. If you're trying to go to a big city, usually, depending on if the dude is going all the way into the city, you have to make sure he's going deep into the city or else you're going to have to walk. And, walking in all the way to a city is kind of shitty. That rhymes, but make sure he's going all the way in. And if you're trying to leave, one thing is you have to get out of the city before you start hitchhiking. So, you can't just start hitchhiking from a street because how do you know that guy's going that way? You know what I mean? But I'll make a completely different episode on hitchhiking trips if you guys want to see that. Comment below whether you're watching on YouTube or send me a DM or an email to support at daxberlay.com. And finally, food. Food is amazing. Food is the go-to. Food. Pack your bags with super cheap stuff. When you go once a week to the grocery store, fill up for that week or, every 3 days. And then, if there's local things, go for the local things. Save the food you have in your backpack for times when you need it, when there's nothing around. But if there's cheap local things, try local things. It's all about experiencing that culture and seeing how they live, what they eat, all that stuff. And if you have the opportunity, go for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys learned something on how I traveled the Balkans. $15 a day maximum, $10 some days, but a maximum of $15. Those are some tips I gave you. I hope you guys are going on a trip soon. I hope you guys get to experience what I experienced this past, a month ago, but 3 months ago. It's an amazing thing to go traveling, backpacking, just leaving all that you know behind and learning every day and experiencing what it's really like to live the life of a vagabonder. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.